Good evening and welcome to the evening news for Thursday, September 11, 2014. I'm Petali Santos. Thank you for joining us. Making the headlines this evening. AFC report against Ashni Singh, not a police matter. MNCC handyman killed in a Lamaha Street accident. President Ramatar wants APNU to clarify its September 15 ultimatum. NIS manager on bail for demanding money with menace. And EU-US aid on board to assist GCOM. And now for the news in detail. The Guyana Police Force today announced that the matter brought before them against Finance Minister Dr. Ashni Singh by Alliance for Change leader Kemrat Ramjatan is not a police matter. Here is more from Alexis Rodney.
In a statement signed by Acting Police Commissioner Silal Prasad, it was noted that there has been no breaches of the law by the Finance Minister. Alliance for Change leader Kemrat Ramjatan, close to 3 months ago, had lodged an extensive 9-page complaint at the Office of the Commissioner of Police and the Director of Public Prosecutions. In his complaint, Ramjatan stated that the minister and other officials in his ministry had committed a violation of the provisions of the FMA Act 2003, spending monies without having obtained the legislative authorization. Prasad noted that within the laws of Guyana, the police force is obligated to investigate criminal breaches only and does not conduct investigations into civil or administrative breaches of the law except those which relate to the Police Discipline Act, Chapter 1701. Silal said the issue brought before the police is an administrative breach. It is on that basis that the police force has sought and is awaiting legal advice on the matter. Ramjatan in his complaint was adamant that the expenditure constitutes a misusing, a misapplication, or an improper disposal of public monies, totaling $4.533 billion for a period up to 16th of June 2014. According to Ramjatan, such a violation contravenes Section 46 and Section 85 of the FMA Act by virtue of knowingly permitting other persons to contravene the provisions of the law. Reporting for the evening news, Alexis Rodney.
Former Health Minister Dr. Leslie Ramsamy says that the current administration should not be shaken by the situation involving Serenja Engineering Corporation, but should work towards finding a new contractor to continue the work. Here is more from Alexis Rodney.
Speaking to the evening news earlier today, Dr. Ramsamy, under whose tenure as Minister of Health the project was conceptualized, said he hopes that government will do everything in its power to complete the hospital. According to him, it is a medical facility which will significantly benefit all Guyanese.
Our people deserve the service and we must have it. And I do believe that the model that we had developed was one that would ensure that Guyanese have the highest health services available to us, and we have a way of meeting the payments.
Ramsamy stressed that the intention of the establishment of the hospital was good and will remain so. He said government should not be deterred by the experience it has had with the contractor, noting that the issue must be separated from the important need of such an institution in Guyana.
I hope that we get over this very quickly and that we restore the contract to another contractor.
Government yesterday announced that it had pulled the US $18 million contract from the Serenja Engineering Company after some discrepancies were uncovered in its operations, while admitting that the over US $4 million paid to the company to design and build the institution might be difficult to recover. After announcing it was terminating the contract of the firm owing to fraud and undue delays in completing the project, government said that the engineering company had collected in excess of US $4 million as payment for mobilization work, which commenced at the site. The money collected is reportedly 23.5% of the project cost. Reporting for the evening news, I'm Alexis Rodney.
A handyman attached to the Georgetown Mayor and City Council is dead, while a popular businessman is hospitalized following a two-vehicle collision along Lamaha Street, Georgetown on Wednesday evening. The accident occurred at about 2300 hours. The dead man was identified as Leon Hunt, 55, of Lot 63 Stone Avenue, Camberville, formerly of Blegaset, Georgetown. The businessman was identified as Sanjay Pasal, the proprietor of Sanjay's Jewelry on Sheriff Street, Georgetown. While information about the accident remains sketchy, the Evening News understands that the businessman was heading home from a wake when he collided with Hunt, who was on his motorcycle. Persaud was reportedly under the influence of alcohol and might have been speeding at the time of the accident. Hunt reportedly fell to the roadway as a result of the impact. He sustained injuries and was picked up and taken to a private medical institution where he was pronounced dead on arrival. The businessman, however, was admitted with severe bodily injuries. President Donald Ramotar says opposition leader David Granger needs to clarify the contents of his recent letter, as it is ambiguous and contradictory to several utterances being made in the media. Here is more from Svetlana Marshall.
President Donald Ramotar today issued a formal response to a letter sent to him by leader of the opposition David Granger, demanding that a date be set for the holding of local government elections by Monday, September 15, 2014. In the letter, the president told the opposition leader that the People's Progressive Party civic government is known for upholding the Constitution. Hence, there is no need for a reminder. This government, he said, has always defended, advocated and promoted constitutionality, the rule of law and democracy at every level. Though acknowledging Granger's views as important, the president in his letter sought greater clarification, noting that only after such is given, a proper response would be issued. The opposition leader on Tuesday, September 9, called on the president to issue the commencement order to operationalize the Local Government Commission and to initiate a process by which the Local Government Amendment Bill could be returned for assent.
Some members of the international community say that they have not been approached by the opposition leader David Granger for aid in international action if the president fails to name a date for local government polls by Monday. Here are the details in this report.
The honorable leader of the opposition did not send me a copy of the letter that he sent to the president. So I honestly don't know anything more than you do about the content of it. I've not had any discussions with the leader of the opposition about his letter or the purported demands that he made in it to the government.
That was U.S. Charge d'Affaires Brian Hunt as he explained that he is unaware of any proposed international action. Like him, his diplomatic colleagues said they have not been approached by the opposition leader for any action to be taken should President Donald Ramotar ignore a recent ultimatum issued.
It's a question, the tactics of this are for Guyana and Guyanese politicians to determine, not for me.
Exactly.
Granger had promised to take local and international action if the president does not set a date for local government elections by Monday. However, the government has since called on the opposition leader to provide some clarity on the issue. Yesterday, Cabinet Secretary Dr. Roger Luncheon posited that there was more to the issue than what was being led on by Granger.
What does the leader of the opposition really want? Because like you, we know that he knows what we know. Everybody knows that. So he can't call for the impossible. The Messiah ain't coming tomorrow. So why would he ask the President Ramotar to do the impossible? There's a reason. We need to inquire what that reason or reasons are.
For the Evening News, Michael Young reporting.
The office manager of the National Insurance Scheme, Port Moronto branch, was today placed on $75,000 bail when he appeared before Magistrate Sherdal Isaacs Marcus in the New Amsterdam Magistrates Court on a charge of demanding money with menace. Miguel Anthony was granted pretrial liberty after he pled not guilty of demanding the sum of $350,000 from Peter Lewis between September 8 and 9. The 44-year-old Anthony of Nig Village, Quarantine, was initially not required to plead to the indictable charge. However, police prosecutor Godfrey Plater asked the court for a summary disposal of the matter, allowing the defendant the opportunity to plead to the accusation. The matter was transferred to the Wim Magistrates Court. Magistrate Isaacs Marcus ordered Anthony to attend the Wim Magistrates Court on October 22 when the matter comes up again. And if you have a news tip or news story you would like our news team to follow, message or WhatsApp us on telephone numbers 680-9630, 600-3117 or 617-2867. You can also call us on our office numbers 231-0382, 226-2102, 223-7230 or 223-7231. Stay with us. You're watching the Evening News. If you've just joined us, you're watching the evening news. The Canadian, British and American envoys today spoke out against Russia's occupation of Ukraine and proposed plans to annex part of the country. The details in this report.
As tensions continue to rise between Russia and Ukraine forces, the Canadian High Commissioner Dr. Nicole Giles, British High Commissioner Andrew Eyre, and U.S. Charity Affairs Brian Hunt today urged that Guyana government issue a statement against Russia. The trio said that they have been actively engaging the government on the issue. Despite this, the government of Guyana has not issued any public statements on the matter. Over the years, Guyana has enjoyed a growing partnership with Russia in several areas. Only recently, Guyana was invited to participate in the Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa BRICS summit.
At the end of the day, if we allow any country to occupy the territory of another, we are simply undercutting hundreds of years of international law and hundreds of years of precedent upon which sovereign nations interact.
It was noted that Russia's occupation and attempt to annex parts of the country is in direct conflict with several international treaties and constitutions. Eyre noted that the West does not want to start a war. It is important that the sovereignty of Ukraine is protected.
I'm not sure quite how far you can take a non-military response. EU sanctions are quite comprehensive now, and more will be introduced from tomorrow, unless there is a change in Moscow before then. We don't want a fight, we don't want war, but we can't let Russian aggression go unchecked.
While the U.S. has given some $70 million in aid to the European nation, Canada has spent over $200 million.
That every country in the international community has an ability to stand up and indicate their support for the international order, their support for international law, and we would be very pleased if Guyana were able to issue a statement that indicated support for these principles that we've spoken of here today.
Already, Western superpowers have imposed several sanctions against Russian hopes of the country exiting the Ukraine.
With local political parties commencing campaigning efforts in anticipation of elections in the near future, the European Union and USAID have signaled its intention to offer electoral support to the Ghana Elections Commission. Here are the details in this report.
Head of the Presidential Secretariat, Dr. Roger Luncheon, has announced that the Ghana Elections Commission will be receiving aid from international bodies as local parties intensify campaign activities. The announcement comes as the possibility of an election early next year increases.
Form commitments have been made by the EU delegation, by UNDP, USAID, all of whom, in one way or the other, have recognized strengthening of GECOM and its confidence so assured in its electoral management would continue to have a positive impact on the evolution of elections and politics.
Luncheon said that the main aim was to ensure that any election delivered by GECOM is able to withstand intense scrutiny.
Their collective focus has been on strengthening GECOM, providing support and pledges of support and enabling project activity, and they all have been offered and in the form of assistance to GCOM, and specifically in the electoral field, management of elections offered by stakeholders.
It was also noted that the political parties have already intensified elections at the grassroots level.
Rather than wait, stakeholders have quickly gotten together and, having conceded that urgency exists, they have been responding to calls for action. They have been responding to calls for action.
For the Evening News, Michael Young reporting.
Region 2 Chairman Parmanand Prasad on Wednesday said that rice farmers are now receiving prompt payments, with some millers paying them in cash. Prasad said that harvesting commenced in his region and farmers are satisfied with the grades as well as the price being offered to them. He said that he hopes the trend continues and farmers receive full payments before the start of the new crop. Prasad said that 2 millers thus far are making cash payments to farmers when delivery of paddy is made. This, he said, is commendable and speaks well of the progress of the rice industry. The chairman said that farmers are receiving between $3,200 and $3,500 per bag of grade A paddy. He noted that more and more persons on the Essequibo Coast are indulging in rice cultivation and outlined that there has been an increase in acreage. The rice shipment deal signed between Ghana and Panama last month will materialize as plans are underway for the first shipment of 5,000 tons of rice to be exported next month. Here is more from Alexis Rodney.
Speaking to the Evening News in an exclusive interview, the Agriculture Minister disclosed that the governments of the two countries have committed to the continued shipment of rice for the remainder of 2014. Early last month, Guyana and Panama signed a memorandum of understanding for collaboration in development of agriculture and trade between the two countries. The MOU includes close collaboration in building the potential of the rice industries of both countries. The MOU is intended to facilitate a partnership between Guyana and Panama for scientists and agriculture research institutions to work collaboratively to enhance agriculture and trade between the two countries and with other CARICOM and Central American countries. The areas identified for the collaboration include, but are not limited to, rice, fruits, vegetables, milk, meat, fish, and other areas related to agriculture. For the Evening News, Alexis Rodney.
In this report, we hear that several Amerindian communities will be benefiting from the Amerindian Development Fund. Here's more in this report.
Some 160 Amerindian communities will benefit from a US $6.3 million project when Phase 2 of the Amerindian Development Fund GRIF project gets underway. This announcement was made by head of the Presidential Secretariat, Dr. Roger Luncheon, on Wednesday at his post-cabinet press briefing. According to Dr. Luncheon, the GRIF Steering Committee had recently approved the Phase 2 project document.
That project document made provision for the communities to access that $6.3 million US to meet the expenditure that they would incur in executing their community development plans. 160 Amerindian communities. They have evolved over time community development plans addressing economic, socio-economic development in the communities, and of course, the well-being of the residents in those communities.
The HPS noted that the Phase 2 program follows the pilot project, which was successfully completed in 27 Amerindian communities. In March last year, government had injected some $5 million into the 27 Amerindian communities for development in any selected project geared at socio-economic development. The pilot project was launched by President Donald Ramotar, who encouraged Tushals and villagers to take advantage of the opportunities which were made possible by the Guyana Red Plus Investment Fund. The 27 pilot projects, which were selected under the ADF CDP, included 6 non-farming, 6 farming, 4 poultry, and 3 aqua farming projects. CD Ramnot for the Evening News.
Head of the Presidential Secretariat, Dr. Roger Luncheon, says that he is not ready to throw in the towel and retire just yet. Find out why in this report.
Head of the Presidential Secretariat, Dr. Roger Luncheon, says as a result of the no-confidence motion, he will not be retiring just yet. Luncheon has served as Cabinet Secretary for the past 22 years. Recently, Luncheon had had several trips to the hospital after taking ill.
I'd say one thing, that the best made plans of man and mouse. I forget who wrote that book. But it certainly, my plans have certainly been altered by this no confidence motion and its likely outcomes.
Dr. Luncheon explained that he would like to see the outcome of the motion and give some more service to Guyana before his departure.
My health, I was most committed to departing hence by the end of the year. That is a bit up in the air now because of the no confidence motion. I may or I may not live up, both literally and figuratively, to this outcome of the no confidence motion. If they got elections, I would like the last opportunity to lay my wares out to the Guyanese public. If there are no elections, maybe I'll go my way.
Stay with us, more news on the other side of the break. Welcome back. Health Minister Dr. Barry Ramsaran says efforts by his ministry to tackle the scourge of suicide are being ignored by the media. Here is more from Alexis Rodney.
Health Minister Dr. Barry Ramsaran, in an interview with this newscast, explained that his ministry is tackling the societal scourge of suicide by boosting its mental health capacity to deal effectively with patients and victims. According to the minister, he is seeking to bring in professionals to conduct training sessions so that there could be a diffusion of the best mental health practices offered to the public. Earlier this year, some 250 persons underwent training in mental health issues. The training was conducted by overseas-based Guyanese Diajaira. Minister Ramsaran noted that those persons were trained in identifying suicidal tendency and also took part in suicide drives to educate their respective communities.
It was so effective that the nurses and nursing students who experienced that interactive session, which lasted for about a week, wanted it to be integrated into the original nursing program. That has been lost to the media. So we have 250 souls who now should be better equipped to deal with issues relating to suicide. It was basically suicide and depression, right? Because they're very linked.
The training was conducted in both Georgetown and Amsterdam, and participants included members of the Guyana Police Force, the Guyana Prison Service, and the Human Services and the Social Security Ministry, among others. The ministry had facilitated another training session earlier this year, which saw some 88 personnel being trained in mental health. Meanwhile, Ramsaran said that his ministry will be focusing on boosting mental health capacity at the level of community health centers to take the workload off the national psychiatrists.
We are hoping to have at the health center level people sensitized to be able to deal, to identify psychiatric problems, not to be intimidated by somebody who has allegedly mental health issues and wanting to send them to Dr. Byra Hari. You need to be able to deal with them at the community level, and only after filtering through those who need to go up to a higher specialist, just like another disease. But we're intimidated by mental health issues. That is the professionals. It's just like another disease. You will be treating diabetes at the health center, at the health post, and only when it reaches a certain stage that it's gone out of whack, that you should refer it to Dr. Dubé at the Georgetown Hospital. So we're trying to get people to recognize that.
The health minister further stated that there are also a number of other initiatives that are being undertaken by his ministry to ensure that there is a mentally stable population. He said the ministry will be looking to collaborate with the Cuban government to construct a regional rehabilitation center in the West Demerara Regional Hospital compound.
In this report, we hear that President Donald Ramotar this afternoon swore in members of the Teaching Service Commission.
Members of the two remaining service commissions were sworn in on Thursday by President Donald Ramotar. The Judicial Service Commission saw 2 members sworn in, while 5 members were sworn in the Teaching Service Commission. After the members of each of the commissions took the oath of office, President Ramotar wished the commissioners success in the discharge of their duties.
Let me just say how happy I am to have the opportunity to swear in the 2 commissions. These are very important commissions. I understand that the absence of these commissions, that the swearing of these commissions has caused some difficulties and some inconveniences. So now that it is in place, I hope that very quickly some of the problems that have been brought to my attention will be resolved, and that the functioning of these 2 bodies will do very well in solving the people of our country.
Former head of the Teaching Service Commission, Chandrawati Leela Ramson, was one of the members sworn in on Thursday. Ramson, who had served the commission for 21 years and was the chairperson for 7 years, told reporters that it is a joy to be returning to the Teaching Service Commission.
It's very challenging and lots of work, approximately 12,000 teachers we have to look at. But, it's good to serve the nation. It's a joy to serve the nation, especially the educators out there who mold our children. I think it's a blessing.
2 weeks ago, head of the Presidential Secretariat and Cabinet Secretary Dr. Roger Luncheon disclosed that the 4 service commissions will soon have their new members sworn in. Both the Public Service and Police Service Commissions have already been sworn in. Reporting for the Evening News, Vanu Manakjan.
Joan Telford of Lot 168 James Street, Alboystown, today appeared at the Georgetown Magistrates Courts before Chief Magistrate Priya Sinarayan Bihari to answer 2 charges related to abusive language and assault. Telford was accused of allegedly making use of abusive behavior to Roxanne Henry. She is also accused of assaulting Kelvin Walters on August 1 at her residence in James Street. The businesswoman, who is the landlady of the 2 virtual complainants, denied both of the allegations. There were no facts for the case. With this, the Chief Magistrate placed her on self-bail and on a bond to keep the peace. She is set to return to face Magistrate Dylan Bess on September 16. Stay with us. Some news from the region and internationally are next. Welcome back, and now for a look at some news in the region. The Trinidad-based Caribbean Public Health Agency says while there has been no case of the deadly Ebola virus in the Caribbean, the region should not rest on its laurels. The agency said the overall risk assessment remains low for the Caribbean region. It said, be that as it may, this is not a time for complacency because of the consequence of an imported case will be serious for the health of our residents. It warned that the tourism industry in the Caribbean could also be affected. And internationally, 10 Arab countries have agreed to help the United States in its fight against the jihadist group Islamic State, IS, after talks with U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry to provide military support and humanitarian aid and to halt the flow of funds to foreign fighters to IS. Kerry told the BBC they recognize the danger that has been unleashed. However, Russia warned the U.S. against expanding its campaign of airstrikes from Iraq into neighboring Syria. The Russian Foreign Ministry said any such action without the backing of the United Security Council, the UN Security Council, would be an act of aggression and a gross violation of international law. U.S. President Barack Obama has threatened action against IS, also known as ISIS, and Kerry has been tasked with trying to build a regional coalition against the militants. Here now are your bridge reports. The Demerara Harbour Bridge will be closed on Friday, September 12 at 5 hours for a period of 1.5 hours. And the Berbice River Bridge will be closed on Friday, September 12 at 6 hours 25 for a period of 1.5 hours. Stay with us. Sport is next. Welcome back, and now for your sport headlines. Leon Johnson is the 300th West Indies Test player. Young footballers participate in Caribbean Wellness Day activities, and South African minister disappointed with Pistorius' ruling. This segment of sport is sponsored by Macorp.
Every day presents a few more challenges. Keeping your business running shouldn't be one of them. That's why we work every day towards ensuring your overall satisfaction. With over 100 skilled technicians and engineers equipped with the tools and skills to help you do more. With the largest parts inventory in Guyana, over 10,000 line items readily available. Driven by your success is not just a set of words to us. It is a code by which we live. That is why we are proud to say that we are Bridge.
Guyanese batsman Leon Johnson became the 300th player to represent the West Indies in Test cricket when he made the starting 11 of the second Test against Bangladesh. The left-hander was presented with his cap by legendary former West Indies captain Clive Lloyd, who was recently appointed convener of selectors. Johnson opened the batting with Craig Brathwaite and immediately announced his arrival on the international scene, featuring in a partnership of 143 for the first wicket. Johnson made a solid 66 to become the 10th batsman to score a half-century on debut against Bangladesh. The match is also the West Indies' 500th in history since gaining Test status in 1928. Young footballers of the city today displayed their skills as part of activities to observe Caribbean Wellness Day 2014. Here is more from Avinash Ramzan.
Health Ministry official and director of the Petra organization, Marlon Cole, said he was entrusted with organizing the small competition to observe Caribbean Wellness Day 2014. Teams drawn from Georgetown participated in the competition, which had 2 semi-finals and a final, with the winner, runner-up and MVP receiving trophies. When TVG visited the venue, just opposite the Square of the Revolution, the youngsters were contesting the first game, which came down to penalties. According to Cole, the whole idea of putting together the competition was to enlighten persons of the importance of being involved in physical activities to halt the spread of non-communicable diseases.
So we decided to invite a Coach Peewee champion last year, who would be on the 13 this year, Santos, who normally uses ground, and a team from Rossville, all to demonstrate physical activities and playing and so, because some of the things to combat non-communicable disease is physical activity. Lack of physical activity is one of the reasons. So in order to promote health and wellness, we thought it best to, fix up this ground here in close proximity to the minister.
Caribbean Wellness Day is observed every second Saturday of September.
A South African minister has said the acquittal of athlete Oscar Pistorius of murdering his girlfriend Reeva Steenkamp is extremely disappointing. The Minister of Basic Education told the BBC she thought the judgment was based on technicalities, not on facts. Steenkamp's parents have also said justice was not served. Judge Toko Zil Masipa found Pistorius guilty of a lesser charge of culpable homicide. She said the state had failed to prove Pistorius intended to kill. And that has brought us to the end of the evening news for today, Saturday, September 13, 2014. Please remember to get a copy of tomorrow's edition of the Ghana Times newspaper for details of these stories and other news. I'm Petrly Santos. Thank you for joining us.